The official release date of Wind and Truth is December 6th of this year, 2024. But until then, starting today, July 29th, Reactor Magazine will be releasing preview chapters every Monday until the official release. Today, they released the preface and the prologue from Wind and Truth. And this is pretty interesting because they've actually released this prologue before. 2 years ago in 2022, it was posted to Brandon Sanderson's website, but there have been some changes made. The first thing I did was come over to this diff checker website and I copied and pasted both versions of the prologue in here. And we can see that there were a lot of different removals and additions. And also the new prologue posted today is shorter than the one posted in 2022. The one from 2022 was 733 lines long. The one from today is 619 lines long. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of those differences between the two prologues and also my overall thoughts on the prologue as a whole. My main takeaway from the prologue is that Gavilar is a power-hungry sociopath. He seems to not really care for anybody else. He just wants to become immortal and have his legacy live on. Also, throughout this whole prologue, he is constantly thinking that he's some kind of mastermind and that he's gonna dupe the Stormfather into granting him immortality and making him a new herald. I thought this part was interesting. He says, he missed the way they'd once schemed. How long had it been since they'd all laughed together? He, Iole, Navani, and Toril. I found that interesting because in Rhythm of War, Navani has a very similar thought. So this is chapter 65 of Rhythm of War, and Navani is thinking back on Gavilar and the day of his death and how it was painful to remember and that there was all kind of conflicting emotions going on in her mind. She thinks sometimes she missed him, at least the man he had once been, when they'd all schemed together as youths, planning to conquer the world. So they both think back to their time as youths when they would scheme together. The first difference that I noticed when reading through this version of the prologue is that there's no longer any mention of Chanarach's flaming red hair. So here in the 2022 version, we have this passage. Chanarach, he said, was a soldier. I believe it. This is a soldier's blade, solid and straight, but with that little impossibility missing from the center. I should liked to have seen her in battle. Lore often claims she has flaming red hair. Is that true? And the Stormfather answers him, yes. In the version released today, we have Chanarach was a soldier, he said, and this is a soldier's blade, solid and straight, but with that little impossibility missing from the center. He held the blade in front of him, examining its edge. I feel I know them each so well. They are my colleagues, yet I could not pick them out of a crowd. So it's interesting to me why they decided to take that question out and not include the part of her flaming red hair. That question about the flaming red hair was actually one of the pieces of evidence that people use for a certain Stormlight theory involving Shallan. I actually made a video about that theory. The video is titled, Did Shallan Cause the True Desolation? I'll link that video in the description, so you can check that out next if you'd like to learn more about that theory. The next difference that I noticed is that the Stormfather is now using the term champion. So here's the differences. So here is from 2022. If they had been entirely truthful in their lives, the Stormfather said, then I would not be seeking their replacements. And in the current version, he says, if they had been entirely truthful, the Stormfather said, then I would not be seeking a new champion. So instead of talking about seeking a replacement for one of the heralds, he's now saying he's seeking a new champion. That's pretty curious to me. That immediately makes me think of the contests of champions, but it's not really clear to me why the Stormfather would already be seeking a champion for this contest, because it's years later when Dalinar and Odium agree to the terms of this contest of champions. And he uses this term champion quite a few times. Here's another instance. Those storming words, the most important ones Gavilar would ever say. With them, he would become the Stormfather's champion, and he had deduced something more. And then again here, I have not promised you this boon. You guess it is what I offer, but I seek only a champion. Still, tell me, would you accept the cost of becoming a herald? Everyone you know would be dust by the time you returned. And here, you've never challenged what I'm doing, Gavilar said. I would have thought that returning the Voidbringers would be opposed to your very nature. Opposition is sometimes needed, the Stormfather said. You will need someone to fight should you become champion. So that's kind of weird that the Stormfather wants the Voidbringers to return. There's theories that this isn't even really the Stormfather and that it's either Odium acting as the Stormfather or maybe one of the heralds acting as the Stormfather to manipulate Gavilar. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm not sure what I believe, to be honest. It could be the Stormfather and maybe he just acts differently depending on who he's bonded. I'm not really sure though. Here at this part in the prologue, Gavilar straight up talks about the contest of champions. This is when he's talking to Taravangian and he tells Taravangian that they come, the Everstorm, the Night of Sorrows, and Taravangian grows visibly pale. He believed Gavilar usually felt foolish when he tried to explain the true dangers that the Stormfather had shown him. The contest of champions for the fate of Roshar. He worried people would think him mad, yet this man believed him. So yeah, that is not part of the original prologue that was released at all. There's no contest of champions mentioned at all. And here's another instance of using the term champion. You do not reverence the position you seek, the Stormfather said. I feel you are not the champion I need. Maybe I've been wrong all this time. Another change that I noticed is when Gavilar's guard named Tiram comes to tell him that Dalinar is there to see him, there's this added description. The guard was wearing Gavilar's own plate tonight. And then again, when Tiram is leaving, it says, the soldier bowed and followed Dalinar, shard plate thumping. In the original prologue, we have a similar scene happen. I mean, the guard knocks, but he's not named as Tiram. And there's no mention of him at all until way later, whenever Sadeas comes and tells Gavilar that there's an assassin. He says, Gavilar, your armor. And Gavilar says, Tiram wears it. So yeah, they brought in the idea of Tiram wearing Gavilar's armor way earlier in this version of the prologue. Another addition to this version is that Gavilar has a secret scholar who is a man from another world. Gavilar has been using the secret scholar to help him experiment with the different forms of light, and this scholar is the one that helped him create void light. Later on in the prologue, this scholar is thought of again by Gavilar. He says, he had his scholar, though in truth Gavilar was baffled by the light he was creating. Light that could somehow kill the Voidbringers? How had Vasher made... And then he's cut off. This secret scholar is named Vasher, and that name will mean something to you guys if you are fully Cosmere aware. But I'll leave it at that, since this is a Stormlight video. We also have another change. In this passage from the 2022 version of the prologue, it says, Ah, Gavilar, the Stormfather said, I see my miscalculation. Your entire religious upbringing, created from the lies of a Harietium, it pointed you toward this conclusion, terrible though it is. And in the new prologue released today, we have, Ah, Gavilar, the Stormfather said, I see my miscalculation. Your entire religious upbringing, created from the lies of a Harietium and honor's own failings. It pointed you toward this conclusion. So in this version, the Stormfather is talking about honor's own failings. That doesn't sound like the Stormfather we know that Dalinar's bonded to. So after I finished recording and I was editing the video, I realized that there's another change that I missed. Here in the 2022 version of the prologue, there's this passage. And are you willing to accept the cost? Everyone you know will be dust by the time you return. And then in the version released today, we have, I have not promised you this boon. You guess it is what I offer, but I seek only a champion. Still, tell me, would you accept the cost of becoming a herald? Everyone you know would be dust by the time you returned. So yeah, I realized the Stormfather uses the term boon, which instantly makes me think of cultivation. I mean, maybe there's nothing there, but if it really isn't the Stormfather, could it possibly be cultivation acting as the Stormfather, manipulating Gavilar? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. But yeah, those are the differences that I noticed between the version of the prologue released today and the version released back in 2022. Let me know your thoughts about the prologue down in the comments, and let me know if you think these changes are significant or if they don't really matter. Also, check out the new Discord server I created. You can come and talk about all things Cosmere. We already have over 20 people that have joined, so come and join in on the conversation. All right, that's it for this video. See you in the next one.